All right, on tonight's episode of Python Papi, we're back inside our generative AI course and we're still building our text to SQL project. Let's have a look at what we went over tonight. Now, tonight, of course, we did add more notes for the walkthrough and we did add more code to our project. So let's take it from the top and say exactly what we added. Now, last night, if you recall, the last thing we added was the function to load our Google Gemini model. So this is what we're going to pick up with and move forward. So this entire function is responsible for giving our query this function here. The next function we are going to write is the retriever function. This is how we will do that. Let's go down. So you can see here, this is how we would do that. The first parameter inside of our function will be the SQL or SQL. The second parameter will be our database or DB. The next thing we will do is create a connection to SQL3 using the connection function and pass our database as a parameter. The next thing we will do is create our cursor. This cursor will be responsible for executing our SQL query by way of specifying it by passing it as a parameter to execute method to our execute method. Sorry about that. And once we get all three results by executing the SQL query, we will perform a fetch to retrieve all of the records. Now, to be able to retrieve or print the rows, we will use a for loop. And the next thing we would do is return all of the rows. And this is how this is going to look. This is our retriever function here. So you can see we have our retriever function, define read SQL query. We're going to pass in as parameter, like I stated, the SQL and then the database. And then we're going to make a connection with our SQL3 to our database. We're going to store that in a variable con. And then we're going to connect that con.cursor. So we're adding a cursor to that con, which is this SQLite 3 connection. We're going to add a cursor to that. And we're going to store it in a variable cur. Then we're going to execute that cursor, which has our connection to our SQLite 3 database. We're going to execute that by passing in the parameter of SQL. That's what our database is, or that's the format our database is in. Then we're going to return that information. As a matter of fact, first we're going to fetch that information using the fetch all, as you can see here. So we're going to cur.fetch all. We're going to store that information in a variable called rows. And we're going to access that information by performing a for loop, like I stated. So you can see here, for row in rows, print row. So for every row of information we have in our rows, we're going to print that row out. And then lastly, we're going to return all of the rows. So that was everything for the entire retrieval function. So we have our query function, which is this first one here we did yesterday. And now we have our retrieval function, which is going to retrieve the information from the query. Now the next step we will be taking is defining our prompt. This is how we will do that. Now the prompt will be responsible for making the model run efficiently. This prompt will be in the form of a list, and this will be the main aim of the prompt. So we can define our prompt. So this is our prompt, and this is the aim of the prompt. But this is what we're going to teach our model to behave. This is going to be the characteristics of our model. So you are an expert in converting English questions to SQL query. The SQL database has the name student and has the following columns: name, class, section, new row. For example, example 1, how many entries of records are present? The SQL command will be something like this: select count all from student. Also, the SQL query should not have these 3 lines here or 3 quotations in the beginning or the end of the query. So basically, this is all of the information we're going to feed our model and letting it know this is how we want it to behave when performing our queries. Now, that's basically what we did for the night. Of course, I brought everything over here to our actual SQL file that we're going to be running when everything is done. So you can see we do have our upgrades. We do have our load Gemini function, and we do have our retriever function, and we also have our prompt over here. So everything is moving along smoothly. We are getting things done step by step, and we are on track to finish this project up pretty soon. But of course, I will keep you posted every step of the way. For now, this is the Python Papi. You guys stay Gucci.